Hi and welcome to another very exciting tutorial. Today we're going to talk about 3D Touch and how to integrate it into your apps so that you can really easily integrate it into your apps. I have chosen a pretty basic example and the app doesn't have much use in that case. So what we're going to do is, for example, adding a home screen quick action to our demo application, which when I press add stuff opens a pretty simple view controller with not much of content. We are going to implement a peek and pop function like this, so that you can actually peek into your content and move that up and have some quick actions here. But this was the peek, now this is the pop. And as you can see, it's pretty simple. Pressing on one of the table view cells brings up another view controller and simply displays the content of that table view cell, like awesome stuff, interesting stuff, and cool stuff. And again, peeking displays the content of the table view cell again in a separate preview view controller. And again, pop brings us to the same view controller as pressing on one of these table view cells. So let's get started. You can download the start file for this tutorial in the video description below, because since we want to focus on 3D Touch in this tutorial, I have already created the user interface to not waste time with these pretty easy tasks and really clearly focus on the more complex topic of 3D Touch, because you will see that it's sometimes not really quite intuitive how to use it. So let's first of all add a quick look at what the file looks like. So we have a simple storyboard here with 3 view controllers. We have a table view here, which is going to be populated with a simple data array. Our table view is called menu table. We set its delegate and its data source in view.load. This class is called master view controller. We are populating the table view pretty simple with self-row at index path. We have a did-select row at index path delegate method implementation here to select a specific cell, and then we perform a segue with an identifier and simply set the detail info of the add stuff view controller, which is the second one here, and it simply displays, as you can see here, if there is a detail info available for the add stuff view controller, then we will add this detail info to our stuff label, which is this red one here. And the actual interesting part is what follows in a second. As you can see, we have a extension of the master view controller here, which conforms to the UI view controller previewing delegate. And we will have a look at that later, since we are using this extension to implement the peek and pop function of 3D Touch. And actually, that's it. There's really pretty simple stuff here. And the first real thing we want to do that is related to 3D Touch is actually having a look at the info plist. Since defining home screen quick actions and also the handling of quick actions is partially done by the operating system, what we need to do to create such a home screen quick action is adding some key value pairs to our info plist. So let's add a row to the info plist, and the key is called UI application shortcut items, and this is going to be an array. So as you can see, you can define many shortcut items here, and what we want to do here now is add one item, which should be a dictionary, and this dictionary should have 2 key value pairs. In our case, let me just quickly delete that and add it to this dictionary. So the first item, or the first key of this dictionary, is going to be UI application shortcut item title. And the title is simply what we want to display, and in our case this is add stuff. And the second key is going to be UI application shortcut item type, and then we will simply use a reverse domain, in our case com training, and add stuff. And by creating this this type, we can actually use an app delegate method to have a look at what type really was selected by the user. So let's go to the end of our app delegate Swift class and add the application perform action for shortcut item. And this is a pretty long method definition, and we will really use the shortcut item to check if the shortcut item type is com training add stuff. So by choosing different types for your shortcut items, you can then decide what you really want to do. And what we want to do is actually creating a shortcut to our add stuff screen. So by pressing on, or long pressing or hard pressing on the app icon, we do not want to display this overview. We directly want to skip to this add stuff view controller, and for that purpose we have a storyboard ID for that add stuff view controller, and this is what we are going to use in app delegate. We'll create a storyboard object here, so simply initialize it with UI storyboard. The name is main and bundle is nil, and then we can create an add stuff view controller, use the storyboard and instantiate the view controller with its identifier add stuff VC, and then we can cast it to an add stuff view controller. And then, since we are currently in app delegate, what we need to do, and let me give us some more space here, what we need to do is create a root view controller from where we can present our add stuff view controller, and to do so we will use the UI application, the shared application, the key window, and the root view controller. And then we will simply use root and present view controller add stuff VC. This does not have to be animated, and we will need a completion handler here, since this perform action for shortcut item delegate method has a completion handler itself, and we need to call the completion handler and tell it that we have finished working with this shortcut item. So let's remove these empty lines here, build our application, and run it. And it is worth noting that you have to have an iPhone 6S or 6S Plus in order to test 3D Touch, because the simulator is not able to do that. So here is my iPhone, and as you can see, this is not the simulator, this is a live stream from my iPhone. And then once I press hard on our app icon, we have the add stuff quick action, and once I press it, you can see that we have called the second view controller, the add stuff view controller, and then we can simply dismiss it. And in the background, while the app was launching, everything was handled as usual. The add stuff button was simply put at top of everything else, because we have used the key window and its root view controller to display it. So this was the first part. Now what we want to do, and let me just get back to my iPhone again. What we want to do is implementing 3D Touch on our table, and we want to give it a peek and pop function so that we can quickly peeking into what the content of our table view cell contains. So when we hard press on awesome stuff, we simply want to display this little let me just bring up the storyboard. This little preview view controller, which contains a label, and when we have a look at it, you can see there's not much code in it. All it does have is a selected item property, which is set as soon as the view will appear. And now as you can see, we have our master view controller here. We have our table view delegate and data source already implemented. And now the first thing you need to do when working with 3D Touch within your app is to check if 3D Touch is really available. So we do that in View.load in our master view controller, and all we need to do is ask the trait collection of our view controller if Force Touch capability is available. And if this is the case, then we can register for previewing with delegate, which is self, and our source view is going to be the menu table. And this for this to work, you need to conform your class to the proper delegate, which is the UI view controller previewing delegate. And it is a good idea just to make your code cleaner and to make it more reusable and easy to read, to remove all that stuff for 3D Touch from the rest of your view controller, and simply creating an extension. And with this extension, you can simply add the extension keyword instead of the class keyword, name it the same as your other class, which is master view controller, and then we conformed it to the UI view controller previewing delegate protocol. And this makes it really easy for us to now only have a look at the proper functions for 3D Touch, which are previewing context with a previewing context and a view controller for location, which returns an optional view controller. This is the delegate method for the peak part of 3D Touch. So here we want to use a location of the 3D Touch to determine which table view cell was actually selected. And since we need a location, it is important to define a source view and also define the correct source view so that we are working with the correct coordinate system, which is in our case the menu table. And now let's have a look at how we can actually do that. What we need to do is first of all get a index path, and to do that we will guard that statement. And because it is possible that at a specific point there is no index path, so let's create an index path constant, use the storyboard and instantiate so let's guard the statement because it is possible that at a specific point there is no index path, and create an index path object and initialize it with the menu table and the index path for row at point. And now this is really handy that we have this location, so we'll use this location and add a comma to add another constant, which is going to be the cell, to else. And there we will use the menu table again, and then cell for row at index path. We already have the index path. And if there was no index path, there's going to be no cell, and because of that we have an else statement here, and then we will simply return nil. And this is possible because our view controller return value is optional, so we will only return a preview view controller if there is something that we have pressed of value for our 3D Touch action. And then again we will guard the next statement, which is going to create our preview view controller, and then we will use the storyboard, instantiate it with identifier, and our preview view controller should have preview VC as its identifier, but let's quickly check that and see if it has this identifier, and it does. So let's go back to our extension, and then we will cast that to a preview view controller. And if this does not work, we again return nil so that we don't return a view controller. This is pretty handy, these new guard statements in Swift 2.0. I encourage you to use it. And then what we want to do is access the preview view controller, use its selected item property that I have predefined for you, and then use our data array and access it with the index path dot row. And what happens now is, because we have the index path of the correct cell that was 3D touched, because our delegate method supports the location, or it gives us the location, we have determined a cell, and we again use this index path and its row property to determine which of our 3 items in the data array is actually selected, and then we transfer it to the detail info, not the detail info, the selected item property of our preview view controller. And that's it. And to use it later for the for our pop part of the 3D touch, we will also use the quick action, I simply call it quick action string, and also add the data index path dot row. I have defined that property in the master view controller, which is this one, quick action string, so that we can later use it here in this delegate method. And now there are only 2 things left to do. We need to set a size for our preview view controller. Therefore, we will use the preferred content size property and create a CG size with width 0, height 150. This is the same height I have defined in the storyboard, and the width is determined by auto layout, or by the whole 3D touch thing Apple does. And then what we still have to do is use our previewing context and create a source rect. And therefore, we will use the cells frame so that the 3D touch experience comes from the point that the user presses harder, and then we can really simply return our preview VC. So preview VC. All right, and now we can give this a try. Simply run it. Let's have a look. See what it does or doesn't. So there we are. We have our table view, and once I press harder on it, we will get our preview. But when I press even harder, we don't pop to the appropriate view controller. This is something we really should do. But as you can see, by adding this delegate method and working with the location of our touch, we have a pretty cool previewing feature here, which is already half of that what we can do with peek and pop. So now let's go to the pop part, and this is really simple actually. What we need to do is creating a stuff view controller, for example. Again, we used a storyboard, and then instantiate it with an identifier, which is going to be add stuff VC, cast it to add stuff view controller. And what we now need to do is use the stuff VC and its detail info and set this to our quick action string, because as you can see, the add stuff view controller has a detail info property, and this detail info property is then used to populate the label of this view controller. And then to show it to the user, all we need to do is call the method show view controller, and in our case it's stuff VC, and the sender is self, so our master view controller. And as soon as we give this a try, but it doesn't work because we have to unwrap it. So let's simply add an if here and put that into that if-let statement. All right, and then we can run the application again. And then let's have a look. So we're peeking and pressing harder, and we're popping, and as you can see, we have awesome stuff on the display, and now we have interesting stuff, and now we have cool stuff. And this means that peek and pop is completely implemented. Well, now we need to talk about quick actions that we can again add to this peek. So if we then want to swipe up, we can add some quick actions. And this is really simple actually. All we need to do is go back to our preview ViewController, which has not much content. As you can see, we have the selected item and we have the view will appear implementation, in addition to a completely empty ViewController implementation. And what we need to do here is creating a property that is called preview actions, which should have the type of an array of UI preview action item. And then you can actually define all of the preview action items that we want to use. So let's create an item 1. All you need to do is create a UI preview action that has a title like do something and a style of default, and you could also add a destructive style, and then you have to add a completion handler or an action handler with these two parameters. And here is where the action happens. So here you can say awesome, for example, and you could do anything here what you want, from presenting another view controller, sending tweets, do anything you like here. Actually, what fits the need of this quick action of the previewing content. Like when you open mail, you can press respond or delete or whatever. Just be creative here. And again, item 2, for example. So again, preview action title. Do even more. Style, let's use again default, handler action and VC, and then let's print cool here. And the important part now is to return an array of preview action items. So we will simply add action item 1 and 2, build that. That should work. And there we go. Simply run the application again, and by simply defining this property in our preview view controller, when we have a look at that and I press hard, you can see that there is now a little arrow at the top, and then I can swipe up, and then we have do something. When I press it, we print awesome. And again, let's do that with that one, and do even more, and then we print in the console that this is awesome and cool. So this is a simple implementation of 3D Touch. We have seen how to define home screen quick actions. You have seen how to create peek and pop, how to create a custom preview view controller, and also how to pop to the correct view controller, and also how to implement some quick actions when pressing harder here. So this is pretty awesome, I think, and I really like 3D Touch and what developers already did with it, and I encourage you to integrate it into your own apps. And even if you don't have an iPhone 6S or 6S Plus, I think with this tutorial you can at least implement the features and hope that it works. So have fun creating it, and we'll see you soon.